Welcome, everybody, to the show. This is Counterclipping show number 231 for July 14th, 2025, and I'd like to thank everybody for coming. Somebody mentioned a Ardwulf Lair Discord server link in the chat. Here that comes, so here we go. And if you are watching this show after the fact and the link's no good anymore, just send me an email and I'll get you a personalized invitation. So once again, thanks Once again, thanks everybody for coming. I got stung by a wasp yesterday, and I am having a small but not life-threatening reaction to the wasp. So right now, there's nothing to be done about it. Anyway, so we are drinking the Glenlivet Caribbean Reserve. We are clipping Advanced Squad Leader. And you may have noticed that there's something else here as well. We'll get into that in just a moment. But first, I'd like to remind everybody to thumbs up the video if you haven't done so already. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. There's a subscribe link right under the video. Please turn notifications on if you want. I have notifications turned off on my phone, but I do have notifications turned on YouTube on this selected channel. So if you want to do that, cool. It means you are guaranteed to get a notification that the latest video is out. So before we get any further, let's say hello to Alan Salazar, Alistair Logie, Bill Simone, Bob Meyer, Chad Kennedy, Charles, Chet Bell, Dale Brady, Danny Secretary. I saw Charles Latore in there as well, so hello, Charles. That other Charles. There's an insect of some kind in here. Chet Bell, Dale Brady, Danny, oh, Jesus Christ. Danny Gable, Danny Secretary, Dave Poirier, David Zell, Dustin Mitchell, Eric Goebel, Eric Selna, Henry Hartman, HUN644 New, Iggy Crichtel, Jeff Beeler, Jeff Edwards, Jeff T, Joe Hammond, Joe Okabayashi, John MC, John Clark, Jonathan Dyer, Kevin B, Kyle Harris, Lynn Pratt is here from sunny Central Ohio. Manders, Mark McNair, Lind, I missed you at Origins, apparently. Marty Sample is here. Mark Hodgkinson, Meandering Mike, Michael Levanzini, Michael Karlowski, Panzer Division Lair, Paul Dangle, Perfidious Albion, Perry Sparopoulos, Ray Musselman, Rick Cox, Rob F, Rob Johnson, Royce, Ryan Huard. Stacking Limit is here. Stigler is in the house. Stuka Joe. Joe, thanks for showing up. Tom Borman, Tim Zales, Todd Walser, Vicky, welcome back to the show. Wade Moore, William Aarons, and Winterson. And I apologize to anybody that I have missed. As you might also have noticed, the on-screen chat is broken because Google broke it. So we won't be having on-screen chat tonight. I will try to fix it at the earliest opportunity. So I'd like to give a big shout out to new swordsman level subscriber Ashley Surratt. So thank you, Ashley, for the support. It is much appreciated. And a huge shout out to the patrons of Ardwulf's Lair, without whom this would not be able to continue. So thank you, patrons. And thanks also to our official sponsors, the good folks at Noble Knight Games, who also, by the way, we wouldn't be doing this quite this soon if it weren't for the fine folks at Noble Knight Games, because they not only gave me a discount on it, which was it was still very expensive, don't get me wrong. But also, they checked it on their side for completeness, and they didn't tell me this, but I'm pretty sure they found the first one they pulled off the shelf did have something missing, because a copy with a missing marker sheet has made a sudden appearance on the Noble Knight website. So whoever wins will be getting a full and complete copy. And I will check it before it goes out. I'll check it sometime before next week. Wargame Ramble, thanks for stopping by as well. So the big news, I guess I'll get into the news here. There's one big news and two small newses. The big news is the giveaway for Case Blue will be next Monday night during the regular show. I thought about doing it differently, and I feel sort of bad for those folks who will not be able to tune into the show at a reasonable time, but we will give it away live on the show. But I will promise in return that there will be more giveaways in the not terribly distant future. So I can say that, and we'll see what we can do. Maybe not quite this lavish a giveaway, but there'll be good giveaways. So anyway, we're still clipping the Denat Germans from ASL here. I have not made any real out of stream progress. Our topic for tonight is Solitaire Wargaming, and we're going to take a look at the top 25 Solitaire Wargames according to Board Game Geek. I'll have some things to say about some of these. I have played, or at least sort of familiar with a lot of them, actually, which surprised me a little bit, considering I'm not all that big of a solitaire wargamer, but we'll have more fun poking fun at the other things that aren't really wargames on there, I'm sure. In any case, any time in Oz is a good time. Good to know. You guys get boned all the time. So I will have details on that next week, but we will be giving it away live on the show. So be sure that you are tuned in for that if you are not. If you are in the market for, I shouldn't say in the market actually, because I can't stop anybody from flipping it. But I will be disappointed if that's what happens. Let me put it that way. I will, and I do have an eBay search set up for it just to keep an eye on prices and stuff. So there's all that as well. Anyway, I mean, this is not a completely unreasonable point that Stigler is making here. He says, shouldn't you do this episode with no audience? I mean, if you're talking about solitaire, why do it with 100 onlookers? I mean, I could just ignore you all. But half the fun of the show is interacting with you folks. So I do have, believe it or not, I had 3 copies of Mega Traveler at one point, and I gave one away. This was many years ago. I gave it to one of my gaming buddies because I don't need 3 copies of Mega Traveler. What you don't see on the shelf is there's actually a 3rd copy on the shelf in the form of the individual booklets, which were sold separately. Nobody here tonight, but we could have 600 people in the show next time, and I can't control that, so I can't stop anybody. And I will promote it too. So, well, BCS is not a solitaire wargame system, but it's pretty appropriate for solitaire. It's good for solitaire play. I agree with Stigler on this. For the record, I like playing with other humans. That's the best way to go. Definitely not the first question, Jeff Beeler. So let's actually get to that. Let me pull that up. And we will be into the topic in what could potentially be record time. We'll see. I will not. I will be using BGG for this. So it's a good idea, though. Actually, Brent. So thanks for the idea. Perhaps I will pillage the Armchair Dragoons website for future content. This is the challenge, right? You got to find the people who are willing to play the games that you want to play. This is a challenge for any kind of gamer. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that, because there's people that show up to CABS, the Columbus Board Gaming Club, every week and just play whatever, and that works for them. And I mean, cool, good for them. That would not work for me. So Stacking Limit will be sweating, doing the moderation. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I think this is where a lot of us are. I think a lot of us would prefer to have opponents, at least for most games. But, time and scheduling and all those things being what they are, sometimes you can't manage that. So also sometimes, for me at least, most of my impetus for solitaire play is so that I am not going to embarrass myself in the upcoming actual play game against other humans. So just to, make sure I have the grasp of the mechanics and all that stuff. He is ready for it, folks. Hair trigger stacking limit. And this is fair, too. And I've said this many, many times. As Vince Aree says, Vassal is not the answer for those of us who would like to spend less time on the computer. And I would personally like to spend less time on the computer. I've actually spent a little less time on the computer. I guess I should talk about, we're actually still into the news here, because they do have 2 minor items. But we are going to have, I did cancel the Chit Show last night, and I am going to cancel it next Sunday as well. This is the wasp sting that I am currently itching, trying to be very gentle with it. Everything's cool. It's just that some scheduling things come up that have to happen, and that's where they have to happen, and I just can't swing it on those evenings. So the counterclipping shows will proceed as normally scheduled. Find some friends. Parrot G, welcome back to the show. Says a small plug for Compass Games, considering the theme. He ordered Baltic Frycore from Paper Wars 109. And in the mailing to Canada, it never arrived, but they quickly sent a new one, and it came today. Compass has always been good about fixing issues that happen. I have never had anything like an irresolvable problem with a Compass product in terms of it got mangled in the mail. They shipped me some stuff, and it got mangled in the mail. They had to ship me some new boxes. So Some of us do spend 15 plus hours on the computer a day, and for those of us who do, I sympathize with the people who don't want to. Let me put it that way. But Vassal is a powerful and wonderful tool, however. So this, I have no idea where Dan's at with this. I know, I don't want to give you but I heard from Dan yesterday, and everything is cool as far as I know. So, no reason to sweat it out over there. We'll talk to Dan again on July 27th, which I believe is the date of the next, the Sunday after next. So, the fantastic is fact. Welcome to the stream. Speaking of Compass games and the topic, he is slowly learning Carrier Battles Philippines C as his first proper Hex Encounter war game. It's been a great experience so far. Cool. That game sold out extremely quickly. I personally would like to see it, but I didn't get it when it was available. I think the last copy that they had got sold out from under me. Well, I snooze, I lose, right? At the last Compass Expo I was at, and I know they've reprinted it since then, or at least they were going to. So there we go. Perigee confirms that Dan is okay. Very good. We all want Dan to be okay. Speaking of Compass, and speaking for charges, I am not sure what is going on from GMT, and if anybody knows, please let us know in the chat. They were supposed to have started charging for the first batch of the incoming stuff on the 11th. I did not get charged, so I don't know what's going on. A bunch of other people say they have not been charged, and I haven't seen any notifications about it, nor have I gotten any notifications that, hey, your credit card has a problem. We've got to we've got to go fix it before it'll charge. So I'm not sure what's going on. I don't really know. I want to say Bill actually said some numbers in my presence at one point that were not astronomical. They were in the low thousands, I believe, like 2,000, maybe 1,500 or 2,500, something like that. I'm pulling that from my memory. I'm not really sure. I am positive that varies by game too. They're going to print more of Engine Thieves, which had or I should say maybe Burning Banners, because that had a real Kickstarter that they really crowdfunded. It wasn't just last minute pre-orders. And as Marty points out, Compass seems to do multiple smaller print runs. It sounds like Bill has gotten that to work. That is not generally considered super duper viable. But if Bill can get it to work, then good for Bill, and that's good for us because he manages to keep many of the more popular Compass games in print and available. And that's challenging elsewhere, right? I mean, companies got to do what they got to do. We are done with everything except the support weapons at this time. So that's progress. So speaking of that, in researching what was actually going on with that, I stumbled across the Consim World thread and a post by Vance von Boris, which I did not even think to screenshot or anything like that. But Vance has said that they are going to work on Typhoon, a new version of Typhoon 2nd Edition after Army Group South comes out. And Army Group South is apparently well along as well. So all that is awesome. And in that batch of stuff they were supposed to charge for on the 11th was Barbarossa Army Group North. North, right. Center is out. North is incoming, and South is next. So, all right. So, I get sympathize with Mark McNair here, frankly, too. Sometimes I get tired of freaking people as well. Stigler mentions, and of course he's right, the other piece of news is that the Consim World Expo has begun in Tempe, Arizona, an event I would say it's fair to say that it's on my bucket list of things I would like to do, is to go to Consim World Expo at some point. It won't be happening this year, and it appears to be fairly unlikely for next year as well. But as Marty points out, I'm not positive that would have stopped him because the office staff does all that stuff rather than like Gene and them. So, well, we'll see. I'll be happy if this happens, but I'm not counting on that. I will be happy. My introduction to that system was with Typhoon. So, and I have a particular interest. It's one of my special topics that I'm very interested in, is Operation Typhoon and the drive towards Moscow in 1941. early 1942 spillover. So I am very much looking forward to a new version of Typhoon, but we'll see. This is true. This is true too. So they could have other priorities that got in the way. But GMT is normally pretty good at letting people know, hey, there's going to be a delay. It's going to be a week later or whatever. So hopefully, I just don't want to miss anything, right? I'll figure it out. So, all right. So DVG Field Commander due postage was done a while ago. So happy. So is that Sean Mulroy? Is this out? I didn't think this was out yet. But I could be mistaken. I got charged for shipping on a Kickstarter recently. This was actually from Steve Jackson Games. They did a Kickstarter of the first 5 or 6 maybe of the old Fighting Fantasy books that were published in England by a variety of different people, including Ian Livingstone and Steve Jackson and the other Steve Jackson and some other people. And I kind of ordered them, and the price was good. It was like $60 for all of them. It was a pretty good price. So those will be along at some point. This is plausible too. HUN644 New mentions that maybe their shipment isn't in port yet, and a lot of times their billing date is dependent on that. Rocket Chickamauga should be along soonish. I really wasn't that interested in the Pipe Creek expansion, to be completely honest. And while I am a completist and much more than I should be, I did not feel obliged to run that down. But Rocket Chickamauga is another story entirely. Yeah, well, I mean, the Barbarossa system, sure, but the immediate predecessor of that system was GMT's Typhoon, which came out before any of the Barbarossa games, and which is a pretty good game. And apparently it's getting a very, very thorough facelift too. I am not getting hit by the bundle. I am getting hit by just the last expansion. So, damn it. Oh, very nice. Stigler has acquired a copy of A Most Fearful Sacrifice. I would be very curious, Alan, to find out what you think about that. In any case, we can now, I think, transition to the topic of what does BGG think are the best solitaire war games. Now, as usual, you could take this rating system and the games included with a certain amount of grain of salt, but we'll talk our way through this entire list. And a lot of these are games I haven't talked a whole lot about, or at least, done as part of one of these lists. So I can see how this is appealing, to be honest. I think that system will work pretty well for Civil War. So anyway, let's step into the topic with Napoleon has entered the list at number 25. We're going 25 to number 1 here. So I have this. I'm super interested in the topic. It is, Ted described it as a role-playing game. I wouldn't, but I've played a lot of role-playing games, and this doesn't seem like that. But like some war games, there is a certain element of flavor in that. And so I kind of see where Ted is coming from. I think just definitionally it's not appropriate, but I vibe with Ted on what Napoleon is. Now, I've got this. I have set it up and noodled with it, but I didn't get very far. I think this is very interesting looking, and I'm definitely going to be interested in the expansion that Danny Seckery mentions here. This is not a BGG list. This is me. What is the problem? This is me doing the legwork here. So, and thank you, Danny, for reminding everybody to hit the like button. There appears to be some delay here. We're going to be at some point. I got to reach back out to Steve Carey, who's one of the people who's kind of leading the charge with Blind Swords, and we'll have him on the show at some point. So anyway, Napoleon, very attractive game. I actually like the cover. If I have a complaint about the cover, it is that the title itself is not prominent enough on the front of the box. maybe this isn't considered important. I don't know. But in my experience, the title is fairly prominent, or perhaps the designer is fairly prominent. I can't think of any examples off the top of my head. So no. I just got through like one turn. That's the thing, and I don't feel like I have a great handle on it. Like I said, I like what I see so far. I think there's a great deal of potential here, and if Ted would like to continue to produce expansion material for this, okay, that's cool. And Ted has expressed some interest in doing this with other historical figures as well. So I think this is worth a look if you are interested in the Napoleonic Wars. It is not a big battles type of thing, though, right? The war element is quite abstract. You are sort of following the career of Napoleon, and maybe he ends up emperor for life, and dies in 1831, like he did historically, of presumably some kind of colon cancer. I don't buy the idea that he was poisoned, because his father died very young of basically the same thing. So this might be interesting. It could be a completely different game out of this, actually. Not a bad idea. Thank you, MIDI Doctors, and thanks for coming this evening. So moving on from I, Napoleon, we have number 24, Combat, Volume 1, from Compass Games designer Ross Mortel. Now, I have played a couple of Ross Mortel's games, but I haven't played this one. I've played the CSS games, Guam and Saipan. Those are Adam Starkweather systems, but Ross Mortel game designs. So this is supposed to be pretty cool from what I understand. I've got a buddy who is really very into it. I would like to see this system expanded too, to be completely honest. Not necessarily that I'm going to buy it, because I have no plans to pick this up at all. But this is because it's a tactical World War II. I don't have any room in my life for more tactical games, World War II tactical games anyway. It's solitaire. It looks it's well regarded. It's reasonably well done. People like it because it's got a good rating, right? So the comparison I keep seeing, Perfidious Albion, is not to firepower but to ambush. And I think conceptually, like big picture conceptually, this does have some similarities to ambush, but the actual nuts and bolts mechanics look really different from ambush to me. So there's that. So combat is tactical. Well, why do you have 6 maps for that Prokhorovka ASL game, right? So I don't know. You aren't necessarily playing the entire map in any given scenario, too, I believe. So as Dave Poirier points out, Bill Thomas says they have 2 to 3 expansions already in development, which is good for the fans of this game. I will be happy for the fans of this game that there is more material coming. So Vietnam, that might be interesting. I am more likely to look at, as crazy as this sounds coming from me, I am more likely to look at Combat Commander Vietnam than I am Combat Vietnam. And as Craig Alexander points out, I'm not sure exactly whether this is out, but if it's out, it just came out, and if it's not out, it's about to come out. The Volume 3, which is Arnhem. I'd like to see the Pacific. I'd like to see the East Front. That'd be cool. Those would be cool things. Wargame Ramble would totally play I Burnside or I Hooker. That might be interesting. Or I Grant might actually be just as interesting. That would be difficult, I think, as a design thing to do, but that hasn't stopped any number of designers before. So I am, well, I mean, it depends. I don't think that this is a real reason to play a game, but I don't think it's a reason not to play a game. If you like that kind of game, cool. And sometimes I'll enjoy that kind of game. Sometimes. Not usually, but sometimes. Molotov Cockatiel says they redid the maps, but I wasn't feeling the new ones. Possibly prevented from pulling the trigger on this. I Nicholas II. That would be, I could probably make some jokes about that. Ron Nicholson. Ron, thanks. That reminds me, your parcel has arrived. Thank you very much. It looks to be in fantastic condition, although I have not examined it closely yet. And that is, Ron sold me a game that we will have on this list tonight, as a matter of fact. Korea could be interesting too. I could see the potential in that. Rob Johnson says Arnhem is out. Well, I'm interested in trying it. I didn't say I was going to buy it. I will try it, but I will, because I've played Combat Commander twice, and I have I played it 3 times? Has it gotten its 3 strikes? I'm not sure, but at least Combat Commander Vietnam, I've heard that for at least some people, the Pacific version of Combat Commander, which I have not played, is better than the European version. Okay, I'm prepared to believe that, pending otherwise evidence. Vietnam is a completely different topic, and I might feel a little better about a lack of agency in a Vietnam game than I do in a World War II game, where I am frankly accustomed to the amount of agency, which is not 100%, but the amount of agency that ASL gives me. So, or ASL Starter Kit or Squad Leader or whatever. I haven't played regular Squad Leader since like 1986 or something like that. But I'm McClellan, or at least not a tech. So that's why I'll give Combat Commander Vietnam a shot. So, and the legend himself has finally arrived. The legend fucko is here. All right. Next up is East Front, according to Michael Avanzini. Thank you so much for this factoid. And I expect there to be some stuff in Paper War as well. And the 4th combat box will include rules for 2 players. So one of the criteria of tonight's list here is that these are all games that are explicitly solitaire games and not games that you can play solitaire if you want. So Frederick could be cool. I Mick Jagger and you try to get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Trust me, that's not an accomplishment. This is funny too. Having read I, Claudius and seen the amazing BBC production of I, Claudius, if anybody hasn't seen that and is even vaguely interested in Imperial Rome, by the way, find a way to watch I, Claudius. I'm sure it's available somewhere. I would play this. Archduke Franz Ferdinand got shot in the car again. I don't know what's happening. Stacking limit is here. He's ready to come down on your unruly ass. I, Caesar, Queen of the Skies. I, Caesar could be cool. So somebody was talking about at one point a game that was, I don't know if this was going to be the actual title or not, but the plot to assassinate Caesar. And I'd be like, oh, I'd be all over that. If somebody does that, I should ask Mark Herman, because I thought he was involved in that, but I have heard nothing about it for a long time. Ooh, nice. Ron has $100. Ron, who is a playtester on the other thing, has $100 credit for Decision Games for proofreading rules. The new Typhoon is pretty good. It's big though, right? If you don't have it, a game that's somehow not on this list, and I don't know if it got categorically left out or what, D-Day at Omaha Beach is a fabulous game. So that's good. RAF is really good. Decision has some good games. I have had a hankering to play, because I watched Foundation again. I have had a hankering to play Struggle for the Galactic Empire. Again, and that's actually a pretty good game. I don't know that that's still in print, though. I might be wrong about that. I have received a parcel from Decision, fine folks at Decision as well today. So, we kind of got that. All right, we got a whole bunch of this. Yeah, I don't know why, but I'll talk about this when we get to a certain point in the list. All right, so moving on from number 24, Combat Volume 1, here is number 23, Where There Is Discord, War in the South Atlantic, from Fifth Column Games. I think this is a game about the Falklands War, which by itself is quite novel. I could tell you that the map is pretty attractive looking, although it frankly looks like it was derived from a satellite image, but I can live with that. It looks nice. I did not kill Dan last night. Dan has nothing to do with no show. That's me. It's all me. It's my scheduling issue that has created that problem. And there will be no Sunday show next week either. I said the same thing. Like I said, I'll get to this in a minute. So this is not a game that I thought would be on this list, to be honest. But it's got a good rating, and Noble Knight wants a pile of money for it. The folks here, this individual would like $375 for it, which is more than what Noble Knight wants. So apparently this is a good game. Solitaire military simulation. You are playing as the Argentines? No, the Royal Navy. Okay, that's interesting. I would have probably thought, the first thing I would have thought was you're probably playing at the Argentines, but that might have made it a less popular game too. Hey, maybe the next giveaway will be what we'll call, I think, community giveaways. Might be where there is Discord. That's not impossible. So as a game on the Falklands, I think if you are interested in this topic, this is definitely something you should check out because there's not that many games on the Falklands. If we look at History Falklands War, we see a total of 49 things, some of which are like Flight Leader and Attack Sub. No, there might be a scenario in there, but those are not games about this conflict. I have one game on this conflict, which is Goose Green, the TCS game. So, Joe says it's unnecessarily huge. So if that's the case, let's go back to where there is Discord and see if we can find... There's not that many pictures of it. Here's the... Looks like somebody's entire solitaire game library, including D-Day at Omaha Beach and RAF, both John Butterfield masterpieces, in my opinion. I mean, this doesn't look that big to me, but maybe it takes up a lot of space when you're actually playing it, too. This is just the board and what looks like a large selection of dice. So, now, I understand. Fortunately, I take the dog out before we do this show. There is, correct. Joe mentions that there is an issue of Modern War magazine that has a game about the Falklands War. I don't know anything about it other than that this is correct. But there's not that many. There's a few, but not that many. So if you're into games on the Falkland War, maybe this is something you want to look for, and or solitaire games. Fifth Column Games is not a company I am even familiar with. They did the Lost Battles thing. That's very interesting. This is the Phil Sabin thing on the square grid, and apparently an area map as well, which is based on a somewhat historical map, which is interesting. That's very interesting. So, but Lost Battles is not a solitaire game, so we're not going to look at it. And we'll turn that off too. Moving on from number 23 or 22, whatever this was, is Target for Today by Steve Dixon, Sean Reif, and published by Legion Wargames. You may remember that I got rid of this a little bit ago, and that's just because I didn't think I was going to get to it. I do actually have a pretty high opinion of this game, and its sister game, we'll call it Target for Tonight, in which you fly British night bombers, which is even cooler in my opinion. So, but this is cool too, don't get me wrong. So these are procedural solitaire games, very much in the tradition of B-17 Queen of the Skies. That said, both of these are substantially more complicated than, perhaps we should say more procedural than B-17 Queen of the Skies. I don't think lots of procedure necessarily equates to complexity, but what it impact pretty strongly is like playtime. And if I feel like it's taken me way too long to do stuff, then that can be a turnoff. But I didn't get to that point with this game. Actually, the one that I played was Target for Tonight. So Coburg Cromwell is apparently a solo game. I've heard of it, but that's about it. Charles Latorre mentions Port Stanley Battle for the Falklands that was in Wargamer magazine decades ago. Where's my whiskey? There we go. So, I mean, this might be true, but I thought it was cool that they did it, right? I mean, there's a reason why B-17 Queen of the Skies was not Lancaster Queen of the Skies, right? But Target for today was way lower on Brandt's solo RPG survey. I have to assume that, I mean, in both cases, both the surveys Brandt is running and the survey, the de facto survey that we have in the BGG ratings here, they're both going to be susceptible to selection bias by the people that answer the question, right? I would describe this if there was like a 1 to 9, how many tables are in the game rating. This is a 9. So there's a lot of tables. Almost the whole game runs off of tables. I don't have a particular problem with that. I am kind of used to that, actually. And if they're well-built tables, then no, I do think that designers ought to be spending as much effort as possible on streamlining those tables. But at the same time, if there's something you want to simulate and it's got to have its own table, I'm cool with that. So this is true. Liz from Beyond Solitaire is also behind the annual Solitaire Games survey. This is what the record sheet looks like. You basically get a record sheet for your plane. This is another thing that it also comes with kind of a lot of stuff. I'll mention that. This is another thing that if you had enough people that knew how to play it, you could do like an entire wing of bombers at like a convention or something, and as a way to do it cooperatively. And I think that could be a lot of fun. That has been done many, many times with B-17 and with things like the Hunters. So moving on from Target for today, we have not entirely dissimilar Skies Above Britain by Jerry White and Gina Willis from GMT. And this came out a couple of years ago and was very warmly received. So this is, how shall I describe this? I don't know very much about how this game works at all, to be honest. Pretty much what I know is that people like it. It is an extension of the Skies Above the Reich series. Personally, I would probably choose, having neither game, I would probably, Liz plays games with a lot of people too. That's why it's beyond Solitaire. Skies Above Britain, Skies Above the Reich, I don't have either game, but if I were to pick one, I would choose based on my attraction to the topic, and I would pick this one. It looks nice. I've seen it on a table. I don't have any insight at all as to how it works. So Brandt says Skies Above Britain was number 2. Oh, Ron says that his personal favorite solo game is RAF Eagle. So this is so we'll talk about RAF when we get to RAF. How about that? So. But I think this is a completely rational choice. This is a pretty cool game. I've got this. Somebody sent me this. This is a pretty cool game. It's a States of Siege game. You are playing Japan. It is 1941 to 1945. I liked it. All right. In any case, moving on from Skies Above Britain. We're doing great on time here. We have, how about that, RAF. The Battle of Britain by genius designer John Butterfield, and the original game was published by West End. The current edition, which is the edition I'm going to recommend everybody buy, is the deluxe edition from Decision, because it's way nicer and it gives you all of the stuff. So the cool thing to me about RAF, first of all, it's a really good game. And so interestingly, I've got John's Battle Over Britain that was published before RAF from Spitzer. And there's fingerprints. I can see the design evolution between that and RAF. And RAF is, of course, a solitaire game. Battle Over Britain was not. But you can sort of see that these are from the same designer, right? So the cool thing about it, though, is you can play it in one of 3 ways. You can play it as a 2-player game. You can play it solitaire as the Germans, or you can play it solitaire as the British. RAF Eagle, which is what Ron was referring to up there, is playing solitaire as the Germans. RAF Lion is playing as the British. Wargame Ramble enjoyed Skies Above Britain. Poindexter, I think we're talking about Skies Above Britain at this point. So, I am glad that you're happy with this fact. This low on the list, BGG. I mean, that is the answer. Ultimately, it's selection bias, right? I would have put this higher too. Is this on here twice? It is not. So if we look at the rating here, War 240, we're going to look at this, and this is the current version, and this has just as good a rating. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. This has a higher rating, actually. Why is it not on this list? I hate Board Game Geek sometimes. In any case, we should just be happy that RAF is on the list, because it deserves to be. Frankly, it is a terrific game. Next up is Field Commander Alexander. I was a bit surprised to see a couple of these on the list. Because I have not played. I'll say a bunch of the same things about Field Commander Rommel in a few minutes. I have not played either of these games, Field Commander Alexander or Rommel, but my understanding is that I didn't think these were that well regarded. Now, Field Commander Napoleon I have played, and I like it a lot. I think Field Commander Napoleon is really neat. But Field Commander, and that's one that's not leaving, by the way. I kept that game. I got rid of most solitaire games, but not everything. So this is Campaigns of Alexander, and it's structurally pretty much just like Field Commander Napoleon. You've got campaigns, and then you've got like a battle simulation that you play out when you have an actual battle, and the campaigns are on these area maps, which, I mean, the maps are attractive too. All the components are attractive. DVG does really nice counters. So I don't know how recently this has been printed, but so this is a fair point. I'd be interested to know this as well. Mean Joe Green asks, have RAF fans played London's Burning from Avalon Hill? I don't know who the designer of that was. Oh, Darren Leveloff is here. Darren, thanks for stopping by. BGG also has a recency bias. This is absolutely true. Did I not mention this? Because it was actually in my notes to mention recency bias, because no, it totally does. That kind of swings both ways sometimes. Let's see here. All right. Oh, here we go. Molotov Cocktail mentions that Field Commander Napoleon does somewhat expand this game system by including the tactical map. I don't know if that first happened in Rommel or Napoleon, but it's definitely in Napoleon. Ben Knight designed... Oh, okay. Ben Knight designed London's Burning. That's interesting. Stacking Limit likes London's Burning, too. That's supposed to be a good game. It's not on this list. I don't know. I'd be very curious to know that. But that said, I have not pre-ordered this and may pick it up at some point. We'll see. But I'd be curious to see if it is given kind of the full treatment like Field Commander Napoleon got, and frankly, like Fleet Commander Nimitz got. But the consensus seems to be that that's not as good as the rest of them. So I like them, actually, but, I'm old, so, as we've established. Next up is Ottoman Sunset. This is a game by Darren Leveloff, so we can talk about how great it is. Well, Darren is here until he glows red with delight. So this is the Great War in the Near East. So it's States of Siege, and as we see, it is... looks like a pretty standard... I haven't played this, by the way. I lost my train of thought. Pretty standard-looking States of Siege map. You are at Constantinople, and you've got people coming in from the Gallipoli front, the Salonika front, the Caucasus front, the Mesopotamian front, the Arabian front, and the Sinai front. And you've got this British Fortitude track, too, that looks like it's just to model Gallipoli. This looks pretty cool. I'd be surprised if this wasn't fun. This has come back, I think, from... Yeah, okay. So this originally came out from Victory Point Games, which I don't think I said. But there's a more recent edition that came... Isn't there a more recent edition of this? Is there not? I thought there was. If not, who's sleeping on that? This also integrates with Habsburg Eclipse, which has been redone. Let's look at the versions of this. Yeah, say this second edition. It's a considerably fancier version. This looks like the more recent one, though. Same type of deal. Habsburg Eclipse. Also Solitaire. Also States of Siege. New versions coming from Tabletop Tycoon. So, ooh, look at that. Sean Mulroy lost his great-grandfather in November 1915 in Mesopotamia. So I think, well, I mean, recognize what Victory Point Games was doing, right? Those games were not graphically fancy. So, I would be both stunned and disappointed if what the new ones don't look far better, to be honest. But, you know, it's the game designs that shine through, right? Brad says that the new ones are very nice looking, but they have a glossy finish, plus the font choice can make the cards hard to read. That's probably an issue for me, especially with the lighting I got in here. All right, so they've both been out for a while without running it down. And you can combine these. So that sounds kind of cool as well. Another States of Siege game. You'll find that States of Siege is pretty well represented on this list. Cruel Necessity by John Welsh. This is the Eagle. I'm not sure if it's Welsh or Welch, but we'll say Welsh. Cruel Necessity. This has also gotten a new edition from somebody, I thought. I'm having trouble keeping track of these because I don't own any of these. This is the game map. That's actually pretty decent looking, in my opinion. And this is just the Victory Point Games version, as far as I'm aware. So, so I don't know a lot about this. I thought this was okay. Re-implemented by Cruel Necessity Deluxe from Worthington. This is the thing I was thinking of, and it's really nice looking as well. I've got the Soviet Dawn redo from Worthington, and it's damn nice. And I like that game enough that I had it already in the old one. The one I had was the C3I version, but I got the new one anyway because that's a terrific game and another one of the topics I'm interested in specifically. So this looks quite nice actually. So that's the new one. Very nice. Now, in lieu of D-Day at Omaha Beach, for some reason, we have D-Day at Tarawa here. Now, I have not played this. I've played Palelu and Omaha. Omaha is a masterpiece. Palelu is almost as good. It just depends on whether you're interested in that topic too or not. What I don't get is why the D-Day at Omaha Beach is not. That's why I mentioned it might have been excluded by some kind of category thing because everybody knows you can play it. You can co-op it in a way that's a little harder to do with maybe Tarawa. I don't know. So Deck Limit says Cruel Necessity is a good game as well. William Aaron says they've both been redone with larger maps. He has the Victory Point game version, both of which are good. I mean, I don't know that there's a ton. I would not expect the games to be dramatically changed in the new fancy editions. To be honest, I did in fact do a playthrough video series. It's not a super long playthrough series, so it's like 4 episodes and I think a recap. So of Soviet Dawn. So check that out if you haven't done so. I really do want to get back to some playthrough videos. I really, really do. But we'll see when I can squeeze that in. So on this topic of this series, which I will call the D-Day series, I like D-Day at Omaha Beach the best of the two that I've played, but that's because it's an Omaha Beach game, so that's a fascinating topic for me. I haven't played Tarawa. Vassal is a great way to play D-Day at Omaha Beach. I would imagine that this would be the case, although I've never tried to do that. All right. Let's not try and get political here, folks. That is not a thing we would like to do. So Darren Leveloff says this is out of print. This is, of course, the John Butterfield design, and there are at least 3 other games in the series other than the 2 we've mentioned. But it is a very good solitaire system. Now, you might look at this. I did this too. You might look at this map and say, oh my God, I am having a seizure because this map is that hideous. But once you actually start playing this, you'll recognize that the colored dots actually are there for reasons, and that is how the game functions, and it works perfectly well. And soon enough, you will just start recognizing those as though they are what they are, which are symbols on the map to tell you what colors activate at what times. So I like Omaha the best of the series. I don't know why this one's on here and not D-Day at Omaha Beach, but I would have put Omaha on this, or Pelelu, above Tarawa, but I haven't played Tarawa, so I don't know. I'm not colorblind. If you are colorblind, these are not the games for you. Well, depends on what. There are different kinds of colorblindness. I can't verify offhand without looking it up who would have problems with this. But if you are going to have color blindness, if you have color blindness issues or color vision issues, you may well have significant issues with this entire series. So Joe says that we're seeing what he calls second edition States of Siege with multiple non-intersecting tracks and units on both sides, as for instance, Miracle at Dunkirk. I haven't looked at that, but what I have looked at is Congress of Vienna kind of does this too, actually. There is definitely a States of Siege type of vibe in the way the military side of Congress of Vienna works. Mechanically, it's not super similar, but it's not that out of line either. This is true. There's a Dieppe game in this series. It was in Strategy and Tactics magazine. It actually goes for a good chunk of change. So, folks, don't forget to thumbs up the video if you haven't done that already, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that already. So moving on from the D-Day series. I don't really care. Let me say this. I should have said this at the beginning of the show. I don't really care how Board Game Geek ranks or rates these games. Okay, that is not important to me at all. If what I think it is a good conversation starter, right? A thing to give us things to talk about. And sometimes we will be talking about why did they put this here? And other times we'll be talking about this should be rated higher. So these are all fair points, right? That's the whole point of these. It is very different. Don't forget there's like this whole political thing going on with Congress of Vienna as well. Just the political side, it's not like States of Siege. It is reminiscent of States of Siege in that one part of the way the map is laid out. Let me put it that way. So, all right. All right, a lot of folks are doing a lot of really nice work in the States of Siege space. And part of that is, frankly, that this has turned out to be a really adaptable and flexible system for certain types of wargaming topics. This might not be one of them. This is the classic Raid on Saint Nazaire from 1987, designed by Rob Markham and Mark Seaman, according to BGG. I have never owned this until this week. Ron Nicholson sold me his copy, and I am delighted to have it, and I would like to give this a shot. This is an all-time Avalon Hill classic, and this is a terrible photograph. Somebody's remounted some, or made some custom counters or whatever, and a custom board, perhaps? What the hell's going on here? Huh. Anyway, yeah, custom board. A lot of people tricking their games out on Raid on Saint Nazaire. That's actually neat. Here's a better shot of the actual map. So Brant mentions that this was 121 on their poll. Yeah, and you know, big props to Darren for the States of Siege system comes from him. So Frank Davis, Frank says that he just started thinking of doing a game or a screenplay on the plot to assassinate Patton. Top suspects are the Germans, the Russians, the British, the Americans, his Jeep driver, and his wife. This sounds fabulous. You know, Frank, it doesn't necessarily have to be a serious game. I'm just saying. This is a nice map, and I want to say it's a Charlie Kibler map. I know Charlie's credited as one of the graphics artists on here. I'm not going to go pull it off the table. So, oh, very interesting. Darren says that his idea for States of Siege originated with Eastfront Solitaire from Omega Games, which I have seen and am not terribly familiar with. It really does help the algorithm, and I do appreciate it. Comments on the video after the show also help the algorithm a lot, by the way. More so than liking the videos. All right, anyway. Co-op games are like multiplayer solitaire games. Yes. And again, maybe that's why Omaha Beach isn't on there, because it's kind of mentioned in the rule book, I think, that you can co-op it and play one, and it's very easy. You have the Big Red 1, the U.S. 1st Infantry Division, coming in on the left side of the beach, and the 29th Infantry Division, the Blue and Gray Division, moving up on the right side of the beach, and then there's a little thing with Point du Hoc. You can just split them just like that. You play the first, and I play the 29th. It's incredibly simple, and it makes it exactly what Jeff Beeler is saying here. It is a multiplayer solitaire game. So, and that's the only reason I can think of why it wouldn't have been on BGG's list. But I'm not in charge of BGG's list. I'm just talking. So, all right. Christoph, I think what it really probably is that a lot of the people who are watching are not signed into YouTube, or maybe don't have YouTube accounts, and therefore they don't. You can't like or comment or anything like that unless you are signed into YouTube. I think that's probably what it is. There'll be another 1,500 views on this in the next couple of days, and I'll get some comments on them, and it helps. So, as Drew Detterer points out, raid on Saint Nazaire is bloody. You start, lose half your troops, and then try to pull things out of a hat. Yeah. So, makes complete sense. Ooh, there is an issue of the General that has a series replay of this game. I love to read the old series replays. Back in the day. And for some reason, I don't go out of my way to look for similar things on BGG now. I'd rather watch video, I guess is what it is. Naval Fire Phase is brutal, says Marty Sample. And Joe's got some videos on this too. That's absolutely right. The full, yeah, exactly. And any interaction at all is helpful. Even thumbs down. That's why I don't really care about thumbs down. I don't even look at thumbs down anymore. I'm not really aware of anything that Joe has done that is shitty. So, I mean, Joe does great videos on every game that Joe does videos on. So, and this is a good point, too. And God damn it that we have to say the late Alan Emmerich. That was a total shock to so many people when he passed. That was because we had just had him on the show in 3 weeks before, or something. Maybe it was a month. I don't know. Something like that. As Stacking Limit points out, we are ready to move on from Raid on Saint Nazaire because I haven't played Raid on Saint Nazaire, so I don't really have anything else to say about it. Other than that, we have, damn it, where is it? They have reorganized this here, folks, so I'm having trouble finding stuff with the right button to click on. So it is time to hear from our good friends at Noble Knight Games, the official sponsors of the Counterclipping Show. And while they aren't the direct sponsor of the Case Blue giveaway, they were instrumental in it happening, especially as quickly as it has happened. So I will continue to remind folks that there is, in fact, let me pull this down for just a moment. There is, in fact, a affiliate link for Noble Knight Games in the video description. If you click through that, just buy whatever, clicking through that link, whatever you were planning on buying anay. I get a little bit of a cut of that, and then when the credit builds up to whatever, Case Blue. But it is it really does help the channel a lot, and it really helps me personally because it takes a lot of pressure off for acquiring things. So I would encourage folks to take advantage of the affiliate link. And if I know about a discount code, it will get posted at the Ardwulf Lair Discord server, by the way. But they have sales all the time, too. So anyway, yeah, you mentioned this at the time. that this, and I'm glad that happened, right? That you had a chance to interact with him before his extremely untimely passing. All right, let's hear from our good friends at Noble Knight Games, the official sponsors of the Counter Clipping Show.
Here at Noble Knight Games, we've been carefully growing the world's largest selection of board games, role-playing games and dice, war games, miniatures and paints, card games, and more, going on 25 years now. Our rustic castle contains more game and hobby goodness than you can shake a stick at, complete with careful packaging and the finest customer service the land can provide. You can buy, sell, trade from anywhere in the world, just like nature intended. Noble Knight Games.
All right, once again, big thanks to our good friends at Noble Knight, our official sponsor, and please use the affiliate link. It really does help a lot. So moving on from the classic Raid on St. Nazaire, we have the much more recent game, Castle Itter, the strangest battle of World War II. This is a fascinating topic. I am told there is an advanced squad leader scenario on this action. I would like to know where it is because that might even mean I have it. It's not entirely unlikely that I might have it. It's not like I don't have a lot of ASL stuff, but I haven't organized the scenarios yet either. And that's going to be a thing because I lost a scenario binder at some point and I got to find copies of the Beyond Valor 3rd edition scenarios, which are somewhat revised from their original versions. So this is designed by Mr. David Thompson, friend of the show, and I also have no idea why nobody's made a movie out of this. This would be a great movie, and you know it's supposed to be a great game. This is in the Valiant Defense series, so it is a related game to Soldiers and Postmen's Uniforms and Pavlov's House. I have not played this. I have played Pavlov's House. And in fact, on the digital channel, I think there's a video of me playing Pavlov's House. I never did any more with it, any more video with it, but Pavlov's House is pretty cool. And Castle Itter is probably pretty cool too. And this is a really cool topic for a movie. So basically what's going on here is the war's over. All right. There's some SS guys holed up in a Castle Itter, with some relatively high value prisoners, many of whom are like political prisoners. And the U.S. would like to get them out of there. And they've got like a small amount of guys to deal with this, but they are assisted by some Wehrmacht troops. May 5th, this is like the day the war ended, right? So you are taking the role of the force that defends the castle. So you have to you control the castle. The SS are attacking the castle. So there we go. Somebody has probably corrected me on that. So Jeff Anderson, thanks for stopping by. I have not liked, to be frank, every game that Ben Madison has done that I've had. But I do like several of the Ben Madison games that I have. So I think he's done some really, really interesting designs. And he, too, is operating in a very States of Siege-like space. So, well, I guess I could just ask him then. So, I believe so. Yeah. Can it be played opposed? I haven't played it opposed. So, well, Jeff T says that it can. So I will take Jeff T's word for it. This is a very highly regarded series. There's also that one on the Italian Frogmen, the name of which I can't remember at this exact moment. But if we look at the Valiant Defense series, so if we left out Omaha Beach because it can be played co-op, this can be played solitaire. It's a solitaire game that has a multiplayer mode. Let me put it that way. All right, I'm looking for the Valiant Defense. Okay, so Guadalcanal, Lanzarote Ridge is the one I couldn't remember. What about the Italian one? Maybe that wasn't in this series. This is from Vincent Cooper, Dan Versen Games. Looks like it's coming out this year at some point. Very interesting. First Marines on at Henderson Field on Guadalcanal. Okay, this could be cool. I could see playing this. By Stealth and Sea, that is the game I'm thinking of. And I think what's mixing me up on that is that it has a box that looks a lot like these Valiant Defense boxes. I think it is actually not part of the same series. So thank you, Charles Latorra and Bill Simone and Brian Lindsay and everybody else who has corrected me on that. Taifa that is playing up. Well, I'll be curious to watch a video about it. Let me put it that way. Oh, Dien Bien Phu would actually be a pretty good States Siege topic, I think, at first glance, right? I don't know, but White Dog did a Dien Bien Phu solitaire, but it wasn't Ben Madison. It was some French designer, a damned hard game for the player to win. Well, it should be. I mean, based on that situation at Dien Bien Phu, and based on good solitaire game design, should be pretty hard to win. All right. And Joe says that Jacques Rabier, I don't know, did the Dien Bien Phu game. All right. So next up is Field Commander Rommel. Like I mentioned before, I haven't played this, and I probably won't. I think I've actually watched some video reviews of this that weren't all that positive. One of those may have been by Marco. I might be wrong about that. But they said this game just didn't work for them. So, but BGG seems to have a high opinion of it. It's got over 1,000 ratings, so I gotta assume it's, people have played it, right? This sounds intriguing. Stuka Joe says that same designer did The Lion of Khartoum, a state siege type game where you have troops and you can send them along the tracks to fight the Mahdi's forces. This could be interesting. This could be very interesting indeed. Okay, so Mike Reed says, a couple of people have said this. I'll highlight Mike Reed. It says Joe Miranda did a States of Siege Dien Bien Phu game. So Tony from Tony's Board Life. Tony, I hope everything's going okay with you over there in the wilderness that is Northwest Ohio. All I can say is our weather sucks. But yours is not. At least at this time of year, yours is comparably shitty. So there is that. Interesting. So Brant says that Field Commander Rommel was 119 in his 2023 survey, but it dropped to 405 last year. I wonder if that is maybe I'll call them charity ratings. People who like the designer and like the publisher or like the topic or whatever, so they give a game a good rating. Having not played it, I don't do that. I have only rated stuff on BGG that I have actually played, and it doesn't happen very often because I usually just don't remember. I apologize for that noise you probably just heard. I whacked the microphone. And of course, this is, selection bias for any given specific year too. Our chat picker seems to be lagging here. I don't know why. So I don't have anything to say about Field Commander Rommel that I haven't said already about Field Commander Alexander. But when we get to Field Commander Napoleon, which we will, then I will have more to say because I think it's a terrific game. Phantom Leader Deluxe Edition, designed by Dan Verson and published by Dan Verson Games. These look pretty crunchy to me. I don't know if that's really correct or not. 2.63 out of 5. I have no faith. This number right here, this weight on BGG, to me, might as well be completely meaningless. It wouldn't matter if it's not even there. Because I think it does not align with what I believe to be factual about complexity and the nature of complexity. So, Winterson mentions that Dan Verson has just announced a new addition to the Warfighter family. They're moving from the tactical level to a more operational level. So this is why, folks, I have almost nothing from Dan Verson Games, because almost everything they do is tactical. And I just don't feel like I need a huge selection of tactical games. A lot of them are also air games, but they do a fair number of ground-based games too. So I'd be very interested in examining operational level games from them. Very interested indeed. Carl Fung. Carl, thanks for stopping by. Mike Reed says that he thinks siege situations in general would lend themselves well to a solitaire format. Yeah, I totally agree. That's, I think, why we've seen a couple of big siege games come out in the last 2 years or so that have been pretty well received, because I think it is a good, there are good solitaire topics. And I think we know at this point that that the people like solitaire games. Solitaire games sell. So... Oh, okay. So Kickstarter for that will be starting tomorrow at noon. And interesting. I have no reason to jump on it instantaneously. Molotov Cocktail played Thunderbolt Apache Leader. I've had other people tell me Thunderbolt Apache Leader is really good, and I think that was Liz Davidson's first war game. I might be misremembering that. Zulu's on the Ramparts. Nice. That's nice too. Yeah, Joe Miranda is an eminent designer at this time. So, like I said, I am intrigued by this idea. We will see what they do with it. Just a Guard, welcome back to the show. Good to see you here. While the DVG Air Leader games are tactical from a mission perspective, he feels like the rule set and campaign layer make them operational games. And this may well be so, but if the nuts and bolts gameplay is tactical, I just don't need... I mean, I'm cool on tactical air games is kind of where I'm at. I'm insufficiently interested in expending my valuable playtime that's actually available on games where I just don't have enough interest in this topic to justify that, right, compared to other topics that I am interested in. If that makes any sense. Maybe it doesn't. All right. Charles says that there is... so somebody said there's two different ones. Says that one was by Mark Pitcavage, who's local down here, or up here in Ohio. Rally Point 4, titled Last Stand of the Besotted Jenny. That would be worth a look. And no, I don't have that. I have no third-party ASL products, and if that's where it is, I'm not buying it, because I'd love to play it, I'd love to see it, but I'm not buying any ASL third-party stuff. I'm just not. It's a can of worms I do not wish opened. All right, next up, from Phantom Leader Deluxe Edition, which I don't have much to say about it, because I haven't played this series in general, is the classic. Not the classic. B-17 Flying Fortress Leader. This is the follow-up to the classic, sort of the next generation of the classic B-17 Queen of the Skies. Let me put it that way. And again, if you're into these leader games, and they are supposed to provide pretty good solitaire experiences for the most part, then these are definitely worth a look. And, you get to fly B-17s, so who doesn't think that's cool? I made a point to go to the Air Force Museum in Dayton to see B-17s. And I was pleased that they had them, and a lot of other cool aircraft too. So I'm not interested enough in aviation, I guess, to really take an interest in very many strong air games. That's not to say I don't have any. I have quite a few, but I'm happy with what I have on the subjects that I have covered it, and I don't feel like investigating this. So if you want to say that I haven't checked these out of laziness, that's probably not entirely incorrect. Right. Exactly. I mean, I'm going to be clipping this. I'm going to be clipping this game, not this counter seat, or this module, but I'm going to be clipping ASL pretty much all year. So B-17 Queen of the Skies was number 8 on Brandt's poll, and Flying Fortress Leader was number 32. So if I was going to buy one of these games, though, this would probably be the one I would buy, because it's B-17s, right? Zulu's on the Ramparts, pretty highly rated. It looks like this is about number 10. Yeah. This is the Joe Miranda design from Victory Point Games, and I don't know if this has been redone. I'm not aware that it has. Once again, a States of Siege type of game on Rourke's Drift. Don't have this one. I've never even seen the entire movie beginning to end, which I probably should. So, but I'd like to see this come back too in a new and physically upgraded edition. Yes, that's true. And I am entering that age band, right, where it's like I have a solid idea because I spend a lot of time thinking about my leisure time and how it needs to be spent, right? And the limited amount of it that is available, and I'm doing what I can do at the moment, and I'm working towards improving that situation. But if I feel like I'm just not going to get to it to the extent that the game itself deserves, like I did with Target for Tonight and Target for Today, I got rid of them for that reason, and I hope I don't rebuy them at a later time when they're thousands of dollars. I've heard it's really good, and I've seen parts of it. I've just never seen the whole movie from beginning to end in a sitting. I've probably seen most of the movie. All right, so moving on from Zulus on the Ramparts, and with our best wishes for this getting reprinted by somebody else at some point, we have another game I don't know a whole lot about. Comancheria, The Rise and Fall of the Comanche Empire. This is a 2016 game from GMT and designer Joel Toppin. This is the second game in this First Nations series. Navajo Wars being the other one. So this is the Comanche Nation. You must drive hostile tribes from the southern plains, establish dominance over the region, and finally defend all of this against a relentless military and cultural attack. Okay, this could be pretty interesting. This is not a topic I've explored very much. But I just happened to, because I was in the right frame of mind to say, yes, I will play. What is it? Sure, I'll play it. At Compass Expo, not Compass Expo, at SD HistCon, I got to play Plains Indian Wars, which is not this game and it's not this designer, but it's pretty interesting. Pretty very well designed game, I thought. Maybe the rulebook wasn't great, and I've heard that. But so my point with that is that this is potentially a pretty interesting topic. And if you're interested in Native American history or history of the Old West or whatever, then this is a game you probably ought to take a look at. And this and Navajo Wars, this is the higher rated of the two between this and Navajo Wars. I've heard very good things about Navajo Wars as well. Interesting. That's very interesting. Brant, are we talking about Comancheria here? That shows up on the People's Choice list and not just the Wargamer list? I have no idea. I have no idea if Joel's working on that or not. I hope so. I hope there will be more of these, because these are supposed to be very good games. I don't really know how they work. This is a somewhat stylized point-to-point based map here and some displays, which it all looks nice, but otherwise I don't know a whole lot about it. All right. So Drew says Comanche Wars, kind of like having a secret base. Their camps are so far back in the wilderness that some armies likely can't reach them. That's you might have a similar effect in something like a Liberty or Death too, actually, thinking about it. I'm not talking about Navajo Wars or Comancheria. Problems with the rulebook, I was talking about Plains Indian Wars. Sorry about that if I have engendered confusion. Aaron Dennis, thanks for stopping by. These games, Molotov Cocktail, this is maybe a fair point. Solitaire games for people who don't like solitaire games. In this case, it's about a topic that we have not seen a lot of games on, that there probably aren't a lot of games on. My wife has Native American ancestry, for example. Can I talk her into playing this? Almost certainly not. But, it's a novel idea. Moving on from Comancheria, we have Hornet Leader. This is another Dan Versen game, published by Dan Versen Games. And Historicon is kicking off as well at some point, like right around now. So this is carrier air operations, though. So, and that actually sounds pretty cool, but it's modern air tactical stuff. You can definitely see similar components to the other games that we've looked at very briefly, and we're going to very briefly look at this one because I don't have anything else to say about any of the games in this series, because I have played 0 of them. But I have played Field Commander Napoleon, which I think is wonderful. So this comes in a giant 4-inch box and has 1 million counters and no duplication. So you can actually say, here's campaign 2, whatever that campaign is. There's like, I don't know, 9 campaigns. It's something like 9 mounted maps in this thing. Is there an actual list? There's a whole stack of mounted maps. They're not huge mounted maps, but there's a whole huge stack of mounted maps in this for each campaign. And then when you fight the campaigns on these campaign maps. And this one is used for the 1796 and 1800 campaigns. And then when you have a battle, you fight the battle out on this battle board using the troops. And here's what the counters basically look like. These are obviously Ottoman troops here, unless they're Mamluk troops, I guess. I don't know. But it's a really pretty cool game. I will cop to the fact that these maps are not super duper visually striking. I think they are fine. I am fine with these maps. I take the point. You're not wrong, but I don't. They're not ugly enough that I care about them being ugly. Let me put it that way. I think they are fine. Hexy, thanks for stopping by. Oh, okay. That's potentially, given that Warfighter is a card game, a strategic level take on it might actually be even more interesting than an operational level take. I'm prepared to concede that. That sounds definitely worth a look. Molotov Cocktail says, Field Command Napoleon is nice. The small boards tend to work. Mine haven't, but isn't the world's driest basement. The game itself is awesome. Only Fields of Fire ranks higher. So yeah, I mean, I really like this. This is one of those that it's like in the couple of rounds of getting rid of solitaire games that I've done, this one has not gone away, nor have I ever considered sending it along to somebody else. I think this is a terrific game, a huge value-packed package as well. You will have noticed that there are relatively few older games on this top 25 list. The oldest game that we saw was Raid on Saint Nazaire, I think. I didn't think to look at that. Look at that. This has been in print. There's been multiple printings of this. I don't think that there's, Noble Knight wants, these are first printings, but who cares? $48 unpunched. Yeah, I think mine's a first printing. I think. I don't know. I'd have to check. So moving on from Field Commander Napoleon, which again, if you're interested in this topic, it's kind of a sort of operational / very grand tactical game on Napoleon's campaigns. This is kind of a campaign leader type of thing, because you're playing each campaign as an individual scenario, basically. Each campaign, the campaigns are the scenarios in this case. And you can probably play. Some of them take longer. Some of them are really hard to win. The Russian one's really hard to win. You can normally play through a whole campaign in a few hours. I think maybe perhaps several hours. You know what? I am in no sense I think you're right based on the problems that they have with Field Commander Nimitz, for example, but I had no issues with my well, I did. The one issue I had with Field Commander Napoleon is the counters are so thick they broke my clipper. So that was the first busted clipper. Field Commander Genghis Khan. That could be, that'd be hard to research. That's about all I can say about that. Next up is a really very new one, Halls of Hegra. I've heard good things about this. I know essentially nothing about it whatsoever. And this is Norwegian volunteers fighting Germans in World War II. And it's an interesting topic choice. If we look at this map, this looks quite abstract to me, but again, I haven't played it and I'm not familiar with it at all, so I'm going to shut my mouth before I say something stupid. Very well-regarded game, apparently. It did very well. It got nominations for awards. The DVG counters, the ones in the edition I have, were not pre-rounded. And there's a lot of counters in it, too. And there's no duplications. You can just have a bag of counters for the 1805 campaign, and that's it. And you never have to open any other bags if that's what you're playing. So, and I really like that, and I wish more publishers would do that. I recognize why publishers of games with 3,000 pieces don't normally do that. So as Joe says, it's Norwegian cubes fighting German cubes in World War II. So fair enough. Well-regarded game. Can't really tell you a whole lot about it. Let's look at the secondary market on it. Noble Knight has it for $170, but Card House Games has it for $54, which looks to be the approximate price on Geek Market, somewhere between $40 and $60. So it's not worth $1 million if you want to check it out. Next up is the one that's like, so there is combat in this game, but this is not a war game. And I don't think anybody at GMT thinks this is a war game either. I think this is a BGG category error. This is a political simulator, okay? And it is a really cool political simulator. I can't wait for the digital version. I'm very excited about the digital version of this because it'll take all of the pain in the ass of playing this manually and give me a digital interface for it. This is assuming it's good. Okay, so Halls of Hegra is a tower defense game. I saw that the Value Defense games are also called Tower Defense by BGG. But it kind of is self-published, though, isn't it? Carrier not on the list. Maybe it should be. Maybe we need to do classics of solitaire war games because it feels like that category has been underserved by the show this evening. Fighting in the War Room. That might be my favorite line from the movie. You can't fight in here. This is the War Room. We have a category for this, though. That's the thing. So that is a problem that I won't say solved, but we've kind of done what we can to solve the problem there. The problem, I don't want to get into that tonight, okay? So in any case, I do have a pretty high opinion of Mr. President. I do think it's a recency bias thing. In the first printing, there were, in fact, a lot of errors. I did some videos on this as well, if anybody wants to watch that. I had a good time with this game. I played through one term, and I didn't bother with the second term. Because I felt like I had gotten the experience I was looking for out of it. I will 100% pick up the digital implementation of this. No subgames. No Carrier Philippine Sea. And I would be inclined to agree with this. We do have one more, as folks who are peeking can probably see. We do have one more classic out here, too. Next up, however, is Fields of Fire. And I will say that this is very interesting placement on this list, and let me see if I can explain why I think it's interesting that this is number 4 on BGG's list of solitaire war games, or solitaire-only war games is what the category is actually called. This game famously has a extremely difficult rulebook. Now there's an updated rulebook and there's an update kit coming and all that stuff. So in fact that stuff might already be out. So none of that may be relevant anymore, but it's still a little surprising to see this as high as it is, despite that handicap. And I think that probably says that this is a really solid game or series of games. I think there's 2 of them now, or is it 3? I think it's 2. In any case, Ben Hall design, rulebook not great. As I can vouch for the rulebook, I was baffled by the rulebook, but I have since passed this game along to a good home, and I am happy about that. So, but cool looking concept, right? And those folks who have managed to play this game and learn it despite the difficult rulebook, or I don't know that it's a bad rulebook or a difficult rulebook or what, but I found it difficult and bad. Okay. HUN644 new points out that the deluxe edition, which shipped at the same time as the update kit, is now out. That contains all the new stuff, and the third one is on P500 still. So highly regarded game amongst those people who have figured it out, but it's challenging to figure out. But interesting. Okay, so Maltov Cocktail says the reason this is his favorite is that Ben's enemy AI feels like an opponent, feels like you're playing a real opponent. See, that's really cool. I think that's really cool. Now I do still have my copy of Tokyo Express, also not on this list. The interesting thing here, to me anyway, I hope everybody agrees, that the interesting thing about looking at BGG's take on this is partially the ones that we think shouldn't really be here, and partially the baffling omissions, right? That's why this is fun to talk about. Next up is Thunderbolt Apache Leader from DVG and Dan Verson Games once again. From Dan Verson and Dan Verson Games once again. Anyway, I can say nothing more about this that I haven't already said. Close air support solitaire strategy game. This is, again, like the rest of the games in the DVG Leader series, this is probably good. I just have insufficient interest to result in me obtaining one. And I'm not going to borrow somebody else's solitaire game to play it. That would be that offhand, that seems like it would feel weird. Number 2 is maybe not a surprise, right? But it's one of the very few older solitaire games on this list of solitaire war games. Ambush by John Butterfield and Eric Lee Smith. 2 really, really, really important designers working for Victory Games at the time. This is an all-time classic that I have never played. Would I be interested in playing this? Not for the prices that it routinely goes for. I'm not really interested in running a copy down. Let's see what this is. This is probably not. No, yeah, okay. So I do not consider these prices to be that unreasonable, to be honest. Noble Knight's selling it for 110 to 125. No, I will observe that none of these are listed as unpunched, which is maybe worrisome. And I would love to see that. I don't know what that would entail. I don't know what that would entail. Tim Zales, this is this retains a very strong fan base. A lot of people love this thing. It is an all-time classic, and that's why I'd kind of like to play it. But I also kind of don't want to pay $125 to play it. You know what I'm saying? But you can probably get here's a good condition copy, for example, for $50. Or you could look around on eBay where there's likely to be pictures. There are unlikely to be pictures on Board Game Geek, although I'm aware that some people do put pictures up. I'd be curious. I would think. It's my general... Andrew Cook with a great question here. For those who have played both the GMT and the DVG versions of Thunderbolt Apache Leader, which do you prefer? I am positive there are going to be people who say they prefer either the older version, and other people who will say they prefer the newer version. From my perspective, I will generally favor the newer version on the basis of the designer having, thought about it some more, right? So that's not necessarily to say we expect massive wholesale revisions, but, any obvious problems should be, cleaned up and all that stuff. So, Brand says it can be had for a decent price. Joe Green says the later modules like Silver Star and Leatherneck had lots of errors. And there's also a Pacific version, and there's also a 2-player version. Mitch and Maine, thanks for coming by. Also have the Pacific version of Ambush Unpunched. That sounds nice. I would totally do these on Vassal if I had unpunched copies of these games. Assuming that's possible, and I assume it's possible. Steve Rochelle says he has all the counters for ambush dumped loose into a single box. Oh my goodness. I bet there's ones missing too. You know, I've heard that it is, and there are some broad similarities that I've seen, but I don't think that I don't think it's reasonable to say it in this way. Let me put it that way. Shell shock is not particularly expensive, shockingly. No pick a charge. Isn't John Butterfield's new space game kind of? It's actually more similar to Ambush than well, maybe. So it's like a narrative paragraph based type of thing, right? Like Ambush. And if so in that case, I don't know if I'd say that's a similar system, but it's definitely the same basic type of mechanic. Let me put it that way. So Darren Level Up, thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate it. Nope, you didn't miss them. They weren't here. Any of the science fiction games like Voyage of the Pandora, Stainless Steel Rat, Intruder, or Barbarian Prince, for example, which I think should have probably, if I were putting together a list of solitaire games, I would probably, if I were to do that, I would probably do it as a list of solitaire games rather than solitaire war games, because if I did 20, then like 18 or 19 of them would be war games anyway. But that's just because that's me that you're asking, right? But I'd put Barbarian Prince on a list like that. No enemy action, Ardennes or Kharkov. Ardennes and Kharkov are well regarded too. Ardennes more so. I feel like Kharkov got like a less adoption by the crowd. There's also a tank version, correct? That's the open fire. I mean, it was very successful, so they'd have been foolish not to double down on it and do a bunch of stuff for it, right? So the Voyage of the Pandora, if away team has a spiritual ancestor, it is Voyage of the Pandora or Wreck of the Pandora, one of the two, or both. And there could totally be just a Greg Smith best solitaire games. Greg has done some stuff that's not solitaire too. I probably should, thinking about it. I probably should. This is possible. And I intend to pick up Away Team. I'm looking forward to that. Based on the lineage and in my from what I'm saying, the lineage is from BSM Pandora to Away Team, right? And based on the fact that John is a wonderful designer that just does, I don't think John has had a miss in decades. And based on the fact that it's a cool science fiction topic. So, all right, next up, and number one, according to Board Game Geek, is Resist, designed by Trevor Benjamin, Roger Tankersley, and David Thompson. This is a game basically about the Spanish resistance against Franco. Okay. This was I have no familiarity with it at all. I have heard that it's good. I will say that I'm not sure how BGG compiles these rankings, because I don't think that made any sense at all. In fact, since we have time, right? We have time. Since I don't really have anything else to say about Resist, let's go. How are we doing this? Let's go to solitaire only games. Okay. Go to the whole list. And then we'll go to category war games. War games, because it's Board Game Geek. And then we'll sort in average rating. Top of average rating is Octung Jabo, Attack on Relay, Battles of the Arkan Civil War, Chronicles of Blood, Solo Work. A bunch of these are probably going to be miniatures related things, I think. I haven't heard of any of this stuff, or at least very little of it. So I don't know what and this isn't out yet. Here's a Mike Lambo game. We could do a whole show on Mike Lambo too, right? That would not be a particular problem. Well, I don't know that I mean, yeah, this is true, of course, but I mean, it's really just that BGG is not really set up for to distinguish. It would be correct to say that Board Game Geek's definition of war game is much broader than my own. Okay, um, but it's also designed to capture. BGG is designed to capture information about board games, and the war games we talk about are board games. Okay, that is the extent of BGG's like structural interest in serving the wargame community. That's not to say that it is not a very useful resource for wargamers too. I find it very, very valuable. But in terms of the ratings and all that stuff, man, I don't think we should take it particularly seriously. So, oh, that sucks. Sorry to hear that you have acquired the COVID. I have, as you know, I've had it several times. Single rating games. Well, I guess that's why we don't do that. That makes that feature completely useless, to be completely honest. Yes, yes. I think this is exactly in BGG's to BGG's credit. I think they generally do a better job than the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame people, to be fair. But I think the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is an absolute embarrassment. The induction process, not the museum. The museum's pretty cool. It's worth going to see the museum. But they're like two completely different things. Yeah, and there's a couple of these that have looked interesting too. Book war games might be an interesting topic as well. Oh, this is true. I don't know if there's very many of these people, but there's at least a couple of them. So, yes, I don't know if it's even more than one person, but there's definitely at least one or two people that actually do this stupid thing. So, this I have is a phenomenon I'm familiar with. So that was BGG's top 25. So I'll throw out some games that didn't get mentioned that I think are interesting. A bunch of which I've already mentioned, though, to be fair. I will mention The Mission, which is a Ben Madison game about early Christianity, which I think is pretty cool. He has a game about, I'm not 100% sure this is a Ben Madison game, but I think it is Jihad, which is a game about the rise of Islam, which is equally interesting. So, I think this is dumb and somewhat childish, but BGG cannot police this. To defend BGG, they cannot police this without locking down ratings in such a way that's going to make it more harder for people who want to like legitimately rate games to rate games. And that is, one of the problems too, is the statistical significance of a game with 3 ratings is very different from the statistical significance of a game with 2,000, right? So, damn it. These games are indeed well regarded. I can confirm that. Sword of Orthodoxy is another one that looks interesting, but I haven't looked at it yet. Patton's Best has not yet been, well, it might have gotten mentioned in the chat. I didn't mention it. I like BGG, but I feel like I have a grasp on what BGG is actually good for and what it isn't, and what is at least a potentially interesting conversation starter. No, Carl, we were all baffled about that. So BGG does not rank that in the top 25, and I don't know why. If it's like a category thing was one suggestion, but we seem to have evidence that wasn't it. So I don't know, but Tarawa was on the list. I like Omaha better, but I'm more interested in Omaha Beach than I am Tarawa, so that's why. But that said, Palelu was really good. I liked Palelu a lot. That got me interested in Palelu and in island games in general. That's why I bought the CSS games, because he was doing those that Solomon's Campaign series. So Jonathan Dyer was the lack of the states of siege. Oh, the great sieges games: Quebec, Malta, and Syracuse. And well, I think both of them, all three of them, perhaps. But I've seen that Malta on tables at multiple conventions at this point. And I've seen Syracuse on a table at least one or two conventions as well. Those games are getting played. Now, are they solitaire? Because I'm not sure. Maybe they got excluded for that reason. I'm not 100% sure. Okay, fair. Global War's not one that I looked at. Yeah, I think I know who this. Well, I don't know who this person is, but I mean, I think I've seen this individual's evil deeds on Board Game Geek. I don't know. I envy this person the extra time that they have to do this because I don't have this kind of time. So, yeah, well, obviously not the way I did it. I'm not saying I did it right. That is, in fact, probably not the case. I was supposedly sorting it by Wargames, specifically by rank. Charles Latorre has Jihad and Sword of Orthodoxy in the mail, and I have Gift of the Nile too, which is about ancient Egypt. That also looks really interesting, actually. Most of the like Hollandspiel and White Dog games that I kept, and I kept most of my Hollandspiel and White Dog games. I kept them because they're interesting solitaire games. Well, as we've seen, recency bias is definitely a factor, right? One way or the other. So I vouch for Omaha Beach. I vouch for RAF. Pax Pamir. Pax Pamir is not a solitaire game. Fields of Fire. Supposed to be good. I vouch for Mr. President. Cool. I think Brant's just listing his down. I didn't see Night Fighter either, and I'm not sure where that would fall on such a list, to be honest. There might be, actually. There might be. It would kind of make sense if there was. Since it is an actual siege. But Siege of Jerusalem is not a solitaire game. I wouldn't disagree with this either, but they don't seem to be particularly interested in doing that. And there could be technical reasons for that. I'm gonna be real soft on BGG for this, right? I think it's the tool. It's a tool that we have. We're not in charge. I can't fix it. So I can complain about it, but I have limited interest in complaining about it. So I'm kind of trying to see things from their perspective. We Are Coming Nineveh is supposed to be that also not a solitaire only game, and that was my criteria, by the way, was that it was Napoleon's last Library of Napoleonic Battles. I think is what we're talking about here. Oh, nice. So Brant's going to do their new survey for 2025 in August. This is true too, and including me sometimes. Victory Games original. I am reasonably certain that the original was not Victory Games. It might have been Victory Point Games, though. Everybody, including me, makes that mistake. All right. Kevin B mentions Liz, and we're talking about the same list that Beyond Solitaire and Armchair Dragoons do. And D-Data Omaha Beach definitely has rates well in those. And A Glorious Chance is another one. That is a solitaire game. Gina Willis's game looks really good. So, and yeah, this is 100% true. And there's reasons as well. So... yeah, so Brant's the survey. I will point out that the survey is selecting its selections differently than I did too. I kind of wanted Wargames, and really, there's maybe maybe three of these that I would say are, I wouldn't call them Wargames. That's not bad for Board Game Geek. That's not bad. So. Oh, bullshit. I have played Case Blue with opponents. So, and I will again at some point. Campaign for North Africa, we'll see. That's still kind of trying to get happening. So, what would I look at? I'd look at the rule book. For the well, rulebook page count is not necessarily an indication of game complexity. It is, there is a, generally speaking, a correlation with game complexity. Okay, so, but you could tell, right? If the game's got an 80-page rulebook, maybe it's not that complicated, but maybe it is, right? And different kinds of games have different complexity scales, right? The Euro players' idea of complexity and what games count as simple and what games count as complex is a different kind of map than the wargamer making the same calls about wargames, right? So, well, if we can locate Sheldon, maybe I'll reach out to the actor. I do not believe I will be responded to. There's a Solitaire ASL. Well, Solitaire ASL is, I've honestly, I feel like Solitaire ASL, I have it, and it's like an official product. So I felt justified in buying it, and I got it for a decent price. I got it when MMP found some Ziploc copies in the warehouse somewhere. I do think that actually, however, the reason why I think the new version of RAF's not on that list too is because it's also a built for multiplayer game, right? I think that's why the enemy action games are probably not on there. So I can at least imagine that. I do not feel that Solitaire ASL is, the ASL guys will probably disagree with me, but I don't think it's a necessary product. I think ASL solos just fine without just playing both sides. I'm completely comfortable with that in most, at least many cases, right? And Brant's, games that people are actually playing solitaire. And I would probably wager that games like RAF or the enemy action games are most frequently played solitaire. I think that's an easy prediction to make because everybody seems to think that most of the war games are getting played solitaire. And that has been the case back to the SPI days when SPI was asking the question. So what would have been, I'm not going to give you a list because I haven't prepared a list. What is my personal favorite thing to, I'll answer a different question than the list was. My personal favorite thing to play solitaire. It's not OCS. I prefer to play OCS opposed. I can play OCS solitaire. BCS. I prefer to play BCS opposed. I can play it solitaire. Is there a game I would prefer to play solitaire even though it can be played two-player? I would probably point at RAF, to be honest, because it can be played two-player, but I'm more interested in that particular game as a solitaire game. There are examples of games that really shouldn't be played solitaire. So that's interesting. I wouldn't mind knowing who's doing that. Well, this is actually true for people who are coming in from outside war games. Are going to be real disappointed when it says it's very solitaire friendly, and then you're just playing it all, right? So there you go. Oh, God damn it! I never think to do this, man. I never think to slip that in at some point, and I really should have. And I am ashamed of myself that I did not remember to just slip that somewhere in the list tonight. Just to aggravate Stigler. Fall of Rome in S&T might be the first modern solitaire war game. I'm not positive that it is, but it is certainly one of the earliest. It's pretty early. It's, I think, you know what? They've redone it. So, it was early. It was early. I've got the magazine, but not the game on that one. I'd actually be interested to read the magazine because I wonder how much it leans on, like, Gibbon, for example. Just looking at their sources would be interesting. Panzer Division Lair played Traveler solo. So this is one of the anybody who doesn't know by now, you're probably not a regular, but here you go. Traveler is a role-playing game originally released in 1977 by Game Designers Workshop, designed mainly by Mark Miller, but with assistance from Frank Chadwick, John Harshman, and a couple Warren Wiseman, and at least one other person, Daryl, might come to me. I forget. Daryl Haney. And it's a role-playing game in that the core gameplay idea is that you sit down with people and play, but there's like a whole bunch of solitairable mini games built into it. Character creation is one of those. World design is one of those. Designing starships is one of those. Designing animal encounters is another one. And you can kind of play it where, okay, well, I have a free trader, and here's what the mortgage is going to be, because it says in the rule book. I'm going to just travel around and assume there's not, minimal complications maybe, and travel around and fly and see if I can make money using the trade system. People did that too. So it can totally be done. And solitaire role-playing games are an increasingly popular phenomenon, by the way. That's interesting. Yeah, that's actually a really interesting point. Agray Day says, we'll play and prefer Freedom in the Galaxy solo. I can see that because the two factions play quite differently. I could see it's a very asymmetric game. I could totally see that. Jonathan Dyer points out that Classic Traveler's at least 3 or 4 games out of the box. This is true of every edition of Traveler, too, bear in mind. But it's most striking when you look at Classic Traveler because it's just a little box, right? 4 AD. 4 AD. What is 4 AD? Is that the name of a game product? This is true too, and this is one of the reasons why character creation works as a little mini game, because it's kind of a push your luck type of thing. Oh, I could have an awesome character if I just keep going. Oh shit, he's dead. So I mean, that's kind of a thing. I recently tried 4 Against Darkness. Actually, it was interesting. It is on the to-go pile. I do not believe I will do anything. I believe I have had a sufficient experience out of 4 Against Darkness. I am aware that there are 1 billion expansion books for it. I am good. Well, I'm glad to hear that, Chris. And I guess I'll mention, I don't have so I'm doing a drive reorganization at this time. I don't have the link to the RPG Digest channel handy, but if you email me at ardwulflair@gmail.com, I'll send it to you. It is searchable at RPG Digest, all one word, on YouTube. You will find it. So there are many, well, no, I don't know about many, but so there's the 3 channels. Okay, so our YouTube channels that talk a significant amount about Traveler, none of which are exclusively dedicated to Traveler. There's me. There's Seth Skorkowski, who's about 12 times bigger than I am. He's got something like 130,000 subscribers or something like that. And Seth's great. Highly recommended. He does a lot of stuff with Traveler, Call of Cthulhu, Cyberpunk, stuff like that. There's Page 121, which is mostly Traveler, and he does like a video almost every day. He's got a ton of videos now. There's the Complex Games Apologist, who may not be going under that channel name anymore, did a lot of videos on Traveler back in the day. There's at least one other one that I am failing to remember, and a bunch that I just know that I don't know the names of off the top of my head. So if you're interested in Traveler content on YouTube, Mongoose has a channel, but they don't do very much. So I watch everything that Seth does. Seth is great. I love Seth's videos. Seth is one of those people that I put like a notification thing on. I get a notification on my desktop YouTube when Seth does a video. So well, the other thing is that you could always just use those as NPCs, right? All the dead characters in character creation. Well, there's ways around it, as there always have been. Well, okay, so in Classic Traveler, if you failed the survival rule, you were just dead. And while a lot of people did kind of take that as an optional rule, it was the way it was written. Even Mark tended to play it as an option. Or tended to consider it an option. Let me tell you that. But that's how it was written. So after that, it's been optional. But you can potentially use anagathics to mitigate the effects of age, and in many but not all editions of Traveller, you include, but specifically including the new versions from Mongoose, there are like, okay, well, I got a cybernetic limb, right? So you can get severely injured, but there's ways to mitigate that, and that's, hey, I got a cool cybernetic arm. How about that? I mean, that's cool, right? So I'm still paying for that can happen. The best Traveller live plays I have seen have indeed been the ones from Glass Cannon, which include Seth, by the way. So I'm a fan of really all versions of Traveller. Oh, check out what I got. Thanks to our good friends at Noble Knight Games. I'm going to put this on the floor now because I don't wish to have it fall off. And I will pick it up as soon as the show's over. The only version of Traveller that I do not own in full, the rules, is Traveller Hero. This is book 2. There's 2 books. This is book 2. Noble Knight actually got a copy, and it's in great shape too. This has been up here for months. I do have the CD-ROM from Far Future Enterprises, but I don't have book 1 in physical format, and I would like it. It is on a wish list. I will eventually acquire a copy, probably. So, well, no, you can have ship debt too. I mean, that is true. I'm not sure who this is, actually. I would like to know who that is, to be completely honest. And of course, I do own all of the RPGs in some version or another. I do have all of the RPGs that Game Designers Workshop did, except for Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, because I'm not interested in Cadillacs and Dinosaurs. I thought about buying it for research purposes at one point, but it's the GW house system. It's like, this seems really goofy, a really goofy choice here, and I'm not interested in this at all, so I ignored it. And save myself. It goes for like $50-$60. It's like, yeah, that's a little expensive for me to just buy for research purposes. So, yeah, I mean, the stereotype is always that you're all 65-year-old retired admirals, and you're not. That's a very rare character. So, by design, right? That guy probably going to get killed. So all the roles, you have to be very lucky to get, in any version of Traveller, you have to be very lucky to hit the top of your rank ladder. Doesn't matter. And you could end up dead of old age, too. So there's that. Sometimes, yeah. Molotov Cocktail asks if I just buy them in PDF. Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes I will prefer, to be honest, for most things, just for the sake of storage, for most things I prefer PDFs nowadays. And it's absurd for me to say that sitting in front of this, but I do generally prefer to buy PDF product for RPGs, except for Traveller and Chaosium and a few other things, like Ars Magica 5th edition. I don't have everything that they did for that. I ran it for years. I had a great time with it. I love the system. I'm going to get the new version, which got kickstarted like last year. That sounds great. There's several of the books I don't have. I haven't felt particularly under pressure to run them down. It's fine. I'm fine with the digital versions. But I do have a lot of Ars Magica stuff. So, I know who this is. I am following this fellow. The other thing is, and I don't remember this guy's channel name either. The other thing is that pretty frequently Mongoose does digital bundles where you can get large quantities of stuff for something in the neighborhood of $20 to $40. Large quantities of stuff. So whether it's Bundle of Holding or Humble Bundle or whatever it is, they've done multiple of these. It feels like they do it a couple times a year. So you could. The trouble is that what I will do is I will see, hey, here's this new Humble Bundle. I need one of those products. So I don't. So what ends up happening for me is I usually buy most of my Traveler stuff directly from Mongoose because I get the PDFs anyway because I want the PDFs. And I do it 4 times a year or something like that. So I'm a generous. I think it's a good option. I mean, they don't have physical product to sell. They can get people selling stuff. So they can get people talking about it, right? They get the word out. If people play it, even better. So, and anybody that's serious about it is going to buy it and buy the physical books anyway. So, and let's not forget the Traveler War Game, right? Okay, yeah, this is I don't, that's not the channel name, I don't believe, but I am watching along with that. So thank you for that, Jeff. Interesting. Okay. All right. Gregory Mum, thanks for stopping by. War and Wargames suggests operational and strategic simulations, historical, whereas combat suggests tactical or biographical. That's an interesting perspective that I think one could elaborate upon. Usually, well, not all of them do, Bill, but a lot of them do include the core book. There is one core book, right, that you need, right, and you could play out of that forever. It would be fine. But there are like some sort of central supplements that are really nice to have, like High Guard Central Supply Catalog, Robot Handbook if you're going to feature robots heavily. If you're not going to feature robots heavily, I don't think it's necessary. Maybe the Vehicle Companion, because it's, among other things, it's got a lot of vehicles in it. So any of the ship books, this is all handy stuff, but you don't need any of it. You could just use the core book and design your own subsector and go. I am working on a Traveler subsector, and if I was farting around with a bunch of different ideas in various setting ideas that I've developed over the years and just decided, screw it, I'll just use Forevan because I don't have... the Forevan sector is the Game Master Reserve sector in Traveler. So they've never done much on it. There's a couple of things. Sector Construction Kit talks about it. This is fair. Shooty, bangy, stabby games. I mean, there's blowy uppy games. That could fall under bangy. I think so. Oh, the Joy of Wargaming is the channel I'm looking for? Oh. Now I have to find out because I'm not positive that I am talking about that person. Let's find out. Nope. Nope. This is totally unknown to me. I will be checking this individual out. So thanks for everybody who has mentioned this. Happy Jacks. I've watched some of the Happy Jack stuff too, actually. Now I'm subscribed to Not Jay, of course, even though he does a bunch of miniatures. But still, you know, I am subscribed to a couple of miniature wargaming channels because they do interesting things. So, all right. Oh, it's 10:07, folks. We are out of time. I didn't realize we were over. No wonder I'm wondering, are we done yet? We are done, in fact. All right. So here's what's going to happen. Thank you, everybody who has come out tonight. Please remember to thumbs up the video and subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Thank you, patrons of Ardwulf Lair, because the patrons help keep the channel going. The patrons, we'll be talking about this soon, but we're going to have a fundraising drive for a new computer, because I got one of those bum Microsoft, one of those bum Intel processors, and this one's going to have to go. So we'll talk about that at some point. Don't forget the affiliate link in the video description. Without that affiliate link, we would not be giving away a copy of Case Blue, unpunched. Oh, it is opened, but unpunched. next Monday night. Now, remember that the Chit Show next Sunday is, however, canceled. So I want to thank everybody. And there's nothing I can do at this point to fix that processor. It is actual hardware problem, and Intel drag their feet on it. Maybe I'll bitch about it at a later time. So hopefully folks got some useful info on some, and heard some entertaining conversation at least, on some solitaire games this evening. We will be back next week at the regular time. Everybody have a great rest of the night, and I will see you again soon.